Have you decided on the idea that you'd like to pursue, boys?
Yeah, the average age of death.
What about questions associated with that notion?
The square green screen of the computer is becoming a common sight in the classroom. Here, the computer is being used to teach a social education subject, history.
Okay. 69, 69, 3, 77, 70.
This kind of project is still very much at the evaluation stage. It may be a vital tool, it may be more trouble than it's worth. To find out, it helps to test our growing experience against a very basic question. How can computers help in the teaching of history? Making this tape has really been my first introduction to computers, and it's something I've been avoiding up until now. I've had to learn a few basic facts, which has made the technology a lot less intimidating. The first is that there's actually no mathematics. I don't need any programming, and I don't need to learn any programming skills. The keyboard commands are mostly fairly simple, and if I make a mistake on a lot of these programs, the program itself can help me to solve the problem. This particular program is called Ireland. It's a simulation game, and it puts the students into an imaginary landscape. It's not immediately obvious why it belongs in the history syllabus at all. Kathy Kirby is using Ireland with her class at Sydney Road Community School. It's an ideal place to take advantage of computers in the history curriculum. The casual atmosphere encourages experiment, and the classes are very small.
Okay, so we go to the island and we need to investigate it. How are we going to investigate the island? What sort of things are we going to do?
Explore the island.
We're going to explore it. How are we going to explore it?
Draw a map of the island.
That'd be a good idea. Would we just draw it by going around?
You know, if we come across a mountain or something, just draw it in the position or something like that.
What will we do with what we found out?
Oh, well, have a look what information we've got and see if they match with something else and something goes with something else, see if things link up.
Would we be able to take photos and all of that, of what we found before we...
In some ways, they're a group which responds very well to an imaginative challenge, but they're not interested in history as a formal subject.
In the past, whenever I've done history units, there's been a fairly general groan, because I think that the students see it as being irrelevant to them and they don't connect with it in the same way that they might connect with some social science issues that would affect their lives at the moment.
The school has enough computers for the students to work in small groups.
You explore and look.
Look, do you want to look?
Oh, yeah.
What the screen shows as a journey is also an opportunity to make and discuss theories about historical problems. If they can deal with the basic issues of survival and shelter, the simulation offers a wealth of tantalising clues scattered about the landscape.
Oh,
What about if we explore?
yes, explore.
We find a large broken clay pot and a stone pig head. There are many signs of stone ditches which generally run north-south.
Have we got any water left?
Yeah, let's find out.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah.
Whether the project works as more than a game depends on the quality of discussion about the evidence.
They were keen to do it, I think, initially because of the novelty of the computers. Once they got into it, it surprised me, the conversations and the discussions that they were having.
It's on this little island, just off the edge.
Oh, the one off... We found all those mounds on the stony plain.
Oh, we can dig those up.
And we dug them up and there were all these skeletons and they had shark teeth necklaces.
Here were the kids sitting there around the computers and up in class having very serious discussions about what certain clues and facts that they discovered might mean. And at the end of it, they were very keen. They all wanted to go on and do a research project about ancient civilizations.
Well, the shoe buckle and all that's from Columbus type days, isn't it?
And the sword.
These students are very used to working in groups and solving problems for themselves. It's relatively easy to try something new. In a traditionally organised inner-city school, the problems can be much more acute.
All right, boys, now we've talked about the types of things that we'd need to know if we were going to write a history about a bushranger of our own choice. We've got two resources with us. We've got the books and we've got the computers. And
Denise Allett teaches Year 7 history at Northcote Boys High School. Working with computers presents a fairly substantial challenge.
I was a fairly traditional teacher and I was comfortable in that role of standing up the front and totally controlling everything that happened in the class, from the moment the kids picked up a pen to the moment they opened a book to what they wrote. And when you've got the computer, the kids have got, if it's a good package, they've got more control over those aspects of their lives, and suddenly your traditional role is changing. And today we're going to be mainly using the computers, and what I want everyone to do is to rearrange the room, bring out the computers and put the desks in such a way that we can start work. Okay? Can you go and do that, please?
The use of computers here means a large amount of room movement and much more initiative from the students. Denise deals with this in very time-honoured ways.
I lay down codes of discipline and I try and make the work interesting and relevant. The more prepared you are, the less likely you are that things are going to go wrong. In an all-boys school like this, with boys who tend to be fairly noisy and aggressive at times, you've got to be very careful that they know what they're supposed to do and that they feel happy doing it.
Roll, open apple and reset. Alright. That's it.
This kind of program is called a database. It contains a variety of information about bushrangers, from hard data to impressionistic poetry.
Do you want stories gone?
Yeah, we'll have the stories.
Alright, Dan.
7. Yeah.
Which person do you want?
What was that?
Nick? Huh?
Captain Moonlight, if you want it.
Captain Moonlight?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Steady.
Alright. Alright, here we go, boys. Oh, his name's Andrew Scott.
Born in Ireland.
This is a very simple application. The information is being used as a resource, but the same program can be used to solve statistical problems for more advanced groups. Teaching here is a very patient process, and Denise is careful to keep the class involved. She works very much with the pupils' own ideas and asks them exactly what they want to do.
I think if you can let the kids have that type of determination to start with and ask them to enter into a contract to actually do the work that they nominate, then if they're reasonable, if they're going to be reasonable at all, they're going to try and complete that work because they are interested in it, because they have had control in choosing it, and so on. Remember the other day when we were talking about doing a bushrangers game? And Jim, you had a good idea about how we could use some of the information from the database. What were you saying about it?
Make 18 cards, 16 cards, and a red card and a green card, and put...
The students' ideas for projects are very inventive.
They ranged from fascinating things such as bushranger games to designing maps with a coloured code for different bushrangers, tracing their journeys, all things which develop skills, which demand that the kids go to the computer and do the research, and yet they're fascinating things for kids to actually do, and they're valid too, educationally.
Yeah. April 1856. Stole some horses.
Even in fairly difficult working environments, the use of computers is manageable by social education teachers. But it's important to remember that things can go wrong, and the problems are often organisational.
Now, some people still have to put their information onto panels before you can lay it out on the newsroom program. So, if you still have to type your information...
At Canterbury Girls High School, Bernadette Boundy is working in an ordinary classroom rather than a computer room. This means her class is working with only 2 machines.
And then just delete and delete it.
They're using Newsroom, a cross between a graphics and a word processing package. It enables them to print out a kind of newspaper front page, combining the political, social and technological events of a particular year.
Yeah, we just have to fix up all the layout.
You just have to fix that.
Can
Do you want me to check?
photocopy that?
Yeah, you can photocopy that, no problem. Do you want me to check your copy before you actually put it on, or is it all right?
That's all right.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Good, well, you're organised then.
While the computers are being used, Bernadette must keep the other groups working on different activities. There is a lot of book research involved in the project. Even so, synchronising the work with the availability of the equipment was a problem from the beginning.
I suppose the trepidation I felt was that I wasn't quite sure of how long it would take, whether the students would actually master it, whether they'd get to the end of it, whether it would I'd be able to control it, or whether it'd be actually within my grasp to finish.
The actual program is quite complex and has its own frustrations. All they want to do is move the title and the text closer together.
You delete and I'll go back.
Okay, go. Oh. Hold on, no, don't do that. Flying.
Machine.
Machines?
Yeah. Now.
In. Up.
No.
Wait, no, hold on. Do.
Did you ever feel that the situation was out of control?
I did, yes. At various stages I really started to tear my hair out and started to really panic and think I'd done the wrong thing.
The organisational and equipment problems were just as obvious to the students.
We had done all our research and all we had to do was wait around until we could use the computers. And I mean, people took so long to use the computer, you just started to get bored. I suppose we lost interest.
So did you have trouble with losing any of the copy and stuff? Was that difficult?
Yeah, we lost a lot of our work.
How did that happen?
One of the discs was deleted.
How?
I don't know, but it's a class joke at the moment.
You've come across most of the kinds of problems that people can come across in relation to using computers in history. Why are you still enthusiastic about it?
Because I think the problems we came across were ones that essentially could be ironed out. Or if they couldn't be ironed out, they could be overcome. And I think that when I look at the problems I had, I think if I went to do it again, they wouldn't happen.
Ultimately, the work did produce results, and the students are positive about the experience.
It was fun.
How is it fun?
It was totally different to anything we'd done before.
It gave us a different perspective of history. I mean, you wouldn't think of really using computers in the history room. I mean, that was really, like, different.
You haven't had the history spoon-fed to you. It's not like sitting down and reading out textbooks and answering questions, and it's good because it's practical.
Do you think it's important for girls to learn to use computers?
Yes, very much.
Why?
Because, I mean, it's such a male-dominated area, and I think that girls really don't realise how much room there is for women in computer areas. I mean, they're part of the future.
So far, we've looked at computing history in very practical ways. We've seen computers used as word processors or as data delivery systems. They supply large amounts of information very accessibly in a variety of classrooms. Here's an example which looks at our basic question in a new way and crystallises a very important idea behind all the projects we've seen so far. This is the story of Mike Hansen and the Traralgon Cemetery. The records and plot maps of the cemetery were destroyed years ago in a fire. What remained was the information on the graves. The data on these headstones is important. It encapsulates the cultural history of this mine and migrant area. Each year, the students of St Paul's School have used the cemetery as the basis of a history project, coordinated by Mike Hansen.
What are some of the sorts of information, some of the pieces of information that you would be able to collect?
Christians and Catholics and, you know, what's the most popular religion or most dominant, I suppose?
Most dominant religion?
Some epitaphs. Like, they usually have, like, he went to heaven. You could find out what their religion is from that, probably, sometimes.
So you could link a person's religion with the epitaph. We have done this sort of thing before, but never collected the data in exactly the same way, certainly not using a computer. In the past, I used to make all the decisions about what would be collected, where we would go, how we would collect it. And when only one person makes decisions, often the decisions turn out to be the wrong ones.
You did the top and the bottom.
It's marital stations.
Oh, he must have been. He's unmarried.
And he's got a son.
No, because look, it says in love and memory of my son.
Yeah.
So.
And that's his father. Also his father.
Yeah, the top one isn't married and the bottom one is married.
Why is the Billy in brackets?
In his free time, Mike has typed in the data himself to speed the process up and avoid mistakes. This is what is called an open database. It's basically a shell or empty filing system into which raw data can be fitted. Like the Bushranger program, it can be used to sort data and perform statistical analyses.
Now that we've got all of our information, we've got the age at which all the males died, the age at which all the females died, we can put it into the computer. How would you use that information to ask certain questions? What sort of questions could you ask with all of that information in there about the age at which the people in the local community died? Jim?
You could ask yourself, like, how many people, the average age of death after 1975, after a certain particular year.
Right. Could you take that information further, the answer to your question?
In asking these questions, Mike is reflecting changes in his own role.
I used to feel as if, as a teacher, I had the job of providing the answers. Now, it's a bit like not even knowing what the questions are, because I don't have to pose those anymore. I have to generate a climate wherein students can be encouraged to ask quite complicated questions.
Mike is, of course, very much concerned with inquiry learning and ideas of empowerment. He sees the computer as a way of manipulating information very quickly and finding rapid answers to questions which can be decided by facts. This makes it a very powerful way of supporting inquiry learning in the traditional classroom.
Just keep going.
Keep going. 26, 77, 55.
Well, our group decided to ask the question whether or not people died younger 50 years ago than opposed to now. And so we split up, and two of us went to the computer and two went to the library to find out the government statistics.
The information the class is using is so valuable that local historians have been patiently reconstructing the burnt cemetery records. The detective work is virtually identical to Mike's classroom exercise. The students too are asking practical questions which are important in the real world. Computers are very good at handling facts, and that's how we tend to view them. But for social education, there's a way of looking at computers which is much more exciting. History is not just a body of information, it's also a process, and it's this aspect which we can explore with computers. We can give students a chance to do history, to be historians. They can experience the whole messy process of creative thinking. Lest we lose the human touch in all these speculations, I'll leave the final word to the people involved. What have you gained for yourself from this project?
Massive stimulation. It's made me question my whole teaching methods, actually.
It's certainly made my teaching this year a lot more worthwhile, because I think for the first time in 14 years I've really sat down and thought about the end result of what I've been doing.
I think I got a lot out of it. I got to learn to stand back and not interfere.
I had great forebodings about machines, but I realise that they are a tool now, a tool for, if used properly and wisely and integrated into what we should be on about anyway, will be a very powerful tool to help kids generate the sort of learning that should be going on. Did that make sense?